You go to a Scrum Master interview and you are asked product owner question. And the first question you are asked is, tell me how have you supported the product owner as a Scrum Master? And and how I'm going to answer this in the interview, I'll say that. Thank you for this question. Actually, let me just give a quick scenario about when I first joined my current company. So when I first joined my current company and I was doing my observation, I was looking at the user stories and I noticed that there was a lot of anti-patterns in the story, I would say. Basically, there was just like a single line of description of what they are asking. There was no full detailed description of what the ask is all about. And also, there is no acceptance criteria. The stories were not prioritized. A lot of stories did not have any epic. So when I saw all this thing in the backlog, and I felt like that was like an issue with that. So then I connected with my PO, my product owner. So when I connected with my product owner, and I told my product owner, I was like, oh, looking at the backlog, and I noticed that there's a lot of issues with the stories and stuff that we have in our sprint that is like basically it's like all over the place. What does she think about that? And she confided to me and stated that, oh, Aisha, let me just be honest with you. I've been in here, basically I've been supporting 3 teams, and I've been basically given to write stories for all of these teams. And I did voice my issues to the leadership, saying that this is like a lot for me. I cannot write stories for like 3 teams. They did take a step by hiring me a product specialist person, and I had a product specialist with me that's not fully experienced in writing stories. Basically, I find myself back to doing everything myself, and I saw that as a gap. So what I did there was like, okay, I remember when I was going through my interview, leadership was telling me that as a Scrum Master, they would truly would like my opinion on what's going on with the team, what are the challenges they've been facing, and I asked the PO if it's okay for me to like rely to the leadership, saying that basically it's been so difficult for the PO to actually help support the team because she has like a lot more than responsibilities. And the PO was fine by that. And then I was okay, I'm gonna do that. Then I escalated it to the leadership, and they're like, oh yeah, they actually did something about that. They hired a product specialist to assist, but they didn't know it was still a lot for the PO. I was like, yeah, I think it would be very, very beneficial for our team for us to basically have a PO to at least support 2 teams. Not 3 teams is like gonna be a lot for the PO, and especially with us coming in right now, they're not doing like properly. A lot of anti-parties have already noticed me being here for a month, and then they actually agreed, and they actually then take out 1 team from the product owner, and at the end the product owner was end up with 2 teams, which was very valuable for my team. Like we went from like basically like having all our stories like all over the place to now having more detail in our stories, and also at the end it helped the developers in able for them to do their work. um, Welcome back to Aisha Scrum. Hello to you all, my subscriber, my current subscribers. I really appreciate you all. In today's video, I'm going to be answering a question that a lot of people have been asking me to do a video about how I'm going to answer an interview question on product owner, and also how can I like talk about what I've been supporting my product owner and say this in an interview without coming off like I'm not being like difficult Scrum Master in short. So the goal for my video today is basically to answer typical 5 difficult interview questions coming from product owner, where you as a Scrum Master, when you go to an interview, there's a high chance that you might be asked all of these questions. And please, if you've been finding my content valuable, please like and subscribe to my channel. I truly will appreciate it, and it's actually going to mean a lot to me. And for all my existing subscribers and my current subscribers, I really appreciate it. And please like and subscribe. I really will appreciate that. And if you are interested in mentorship at any given point, do not hesitate to email me at admin@aishascrumtech.com. You can also call me at 484-767-1979. All right, so let's get back to it. So the next question I'm going to be answering about in case you go to an interview as a Scrum Master, where you might be asked a product owner question or how you've supported the product owner. It's one that was myself, I was asked in an interview like long time ago. And I was asked, so what would you do as a Scrum Master if the product owner added new item to the sprint? And also, or what would you do if the product owner come with a new item to the team? I was like, oh, thank you for that question, but by the way, you asked two different questions, but I'm gonna do my best to answer both of them. So one of them is the first question you asked me is, well, what will I do as a Scrum Master if a product owner added our item to the sprint, like what they consider new priority item to the sprint, without communicating with the team or with me as the Scrum Master? And I'll be like, oh, thank you very much for this question. But let me just start by saying that when it comes to adding things to the sprint, I know like in Scrum, the purpose of us doing Scrum in general is for us to be able to be flexible and adapt. As long we are continuously working towards our sprint goal, is still fine. But I still feel like it's very important for a Scrum team to always communicate, right? So in case the product, or if a product owner keep adding stuff to the backlog or to our current ongoing sprint without communicating to the team, I see that as an anti-pattern. And actually this have once happened to me as a Scrum Master, whereby when I first joined the team, and the product owner will basically add new item to the sprint without saying anything. And then later on, all of a sudden, you'll see like a developer is assigned to a task. And then when I'm going over our daily Scrum in the morning and I click on this developer name, I will see a task on their to-do column. And then the developer will say, oh, by the way, Aisha, I didn't know about this task. Oh, this task is now assigned to me. And then I was like, oh, I guess so. Then the PO will always say, oh, that's something that's important and I think that you should add that to your queue. And for that, during that meeting, I actually was like, okay, I'll keep quiet and I'll try to coach the PO on my own, on a one-to-one, without calling the PO in the whole meeting. And the developer was like, and then I asked the developer, are you comfortable with that task? Are you sure? And the developer was like, okay, yeah, I will try to include it in my queue. So what I did then to help solve that situation actually was to connect with the product owner one-to-one and tell the product owner it's actually not bad if she found that there's something more important for a team member to do, but I think it would be very, very important for her to communicate it to me and also to the team, because as we are all working towards the same common goal. And the product owner was like, oh yeah, I know, but this is something that was important. I had to put it in. I was like, yeah, for sure. I am not denying that fact that you have to put it in, but I think it's also very important for you to also communicate it with us. Please, going forward, would you mind at least like sending a message to our team chat? I know sometimes we are already off with our meetings, but you can also send a message in our team chat and we all can communicate about that new priority item. And the product owner agreed actually, and going forward, the product owner started to bring those communication to our team channel and we'll discuss it. And if it's a true priority, then we can try to give it to someone, whoever will volunteer to work on that task. And to answer your second question about if the product owner comes now to the team with a new priority item, what will I do as a Scrum Master? I'll say thank you for this question. This is actually very common currently in my role, where our product owner sometimes, not that it's bad thing that our product owner do this, or sometimes it's just the nature of the product that we are working on, but we already know about this as a team. So what I've done as a Scrum Master to help ensure that my team is not being overworked or overloaded is basically, as we are planning for our capacity, let's say our velocity for this sprint is like 30, so I ensure that I will at least commit to I leave like 10% buffer in case of all those uncertain or anything that will come midway through the sprint. And we actually then will ask the product owner, how important is this new priority compared to everything else the team members are working on? I like to ask this because sometimes we know the product owner will always come, oh, it's a priority. Oh, yes, that's a priority. That's a priority. Okay, well, if everyone is priority, okay, let's talk about which one is critical. And if the product owner will say, okay, that's a critical task. And if that's the case, of course, that's something for sure we have to respond to that, because there's a reason why the product owner is coming up with this new high priority task. Then we discuss together as a team and then we'll get a volunteer. Then the team will now work on that task. Now that's the most critical. And as they complete that task, if we have more bandwidth, they can take on and continue from where they left off. So that's how I've addressed that in questions in an interview when I'm asked about product owner bringing new priority to the team. So the next question I'm going to answer is, and before I answer this question, if yet you did not subscribe to my channel, please like and subscribe to my channel. Actually it's gonna mean a lot to me, and I truly appreciate you all for liking, commenting. I've seen you all comment, and I really appreciate that. So the next question I'm gonna answer about a difficult product owner question you might encounter going to this interview as a Scrum Master is, tell me how you've helped your product owner prioritize the product backlog, right? And we all know that this is one question that's sometimes very commonly asked in interview. And if you look at your job description, sometimes you'll see that's one of those things that a lot of companies will need a Scrum Master to guide and coach the product owner in ensuring that we have that nice prioritized backlog. And I have answered this question in the past in an interview. It's basically to give a scenario on when I've actually done that. I'm sure it's very common that we always, as a Scrum Master, our role is always to continue to support our product owner. And how I've answered this in the interview question is to basically say that, to give an example, like give situation using the STAR technique, give some kind of scenario on your situation, the background, the action you took, and the result from the action you took. Very important. So how I've answered this question is to go back to a scenario where actually I've done this as a Scrum Master, and have this is a very important question, and thank you for asking me this question. My previous company that I left like not too long ago, when I was working with my product owner, and I actually joined this company, and basically they were very new to Agile, right? So they were new to Agile. The product owner was the only person basically facilitating the whole meeting because they couldn't find a Scrum Master to fill the position. And that's why I was hired to come in to help support the team. And the product owner was basically facilitating the daily Scrum, sprint planning, and retrospective. And they will connect in the sprint planning meeting, and basically the team, I noticed that what I've observed is that the team will basically be spending most of their time in the product backlog, trying to prioritize it and determine what tasks they're going to be working on, and if anything change, and which one is the most priority. But what I've noticed that the backlog itself was not prioritized. Like basically the user stories that were the highest priority was not at the top of the product backlog. It basically was at the bottom, and they will spend time and do all of that. By the time they look at time, it's already like almost 3-4 hours trying to complete their sprint planning meeting. And at the end, by the time they get to start the sprints, the team members are already so exhausted that it's so even difficult for them to participate during the estimations. So what I've done there was I connected with my product owner and also discussed our better techniques and ways how I can support the team. And I asked my product owner what's their opinion about basically introducing backlog refinements to our meeting. I was like, I know right now we're only doing the Scrum event of all the other events, and backlog refinement, coming from my experience, I think it's going to be very valuable because we all can learn and we all can use that backlog refinement, look at the product backlog, and also look at all the feedbacks we're getting from the stakeholders to the end users, and we can add and have those team discussion prior to us coming to sprint planning. And the product owner was like, oh, to be honest, sure, I would love that, because I was even thinking to introduce this to the team, but I just didn't have the bandwidth to do that because I was the product owner and I was the Scrum Master. So I would truly appreciate if you can basically introduce this. And I was like, sure, definitely. And I tell the product owner, well, is she open for us to have a workshop on the purpose of the backlog refinement? Why should the team even come to enjoying this backlog refinement, and what the outcome from coming to this backlog refinement? Is it okay if I have a workshop on this for the whole team? And the product owner like, yeah, sure, that would be very nice. And then we bring it to the team, me and the product owner, because remember, I already got the buy-in from the product owner. And that's something I always like to do before I like to introduce everything to the team. If there's something new, I will always take it to my product owner, and build a relationship with the product owner, and then we'll now bring it to the team. And after we brought it to the team, and the team was all open for it, and the product owner also supported me, was like, oh yeah, I think let's do this. It's going to be very beneficial for us. It will save us at least 2 hours from our current hours that we've been spending in planning, and everyone was down for it. So then we started doing backlog refinement, and it improved our sprint planning time drastically. And we also like it was huge impact on the team. And during our retrospective after our first implementation of backlog refinement, that retrospective for that sprint, and we had a very good feedback from the team members, which I think was very, very nice. So that's one way how I've supported my product owner for us to use the backlog refinement to prioritize our backlog and ensure that all the user stories and all the backlog PBI item in our backlog is actually prioritized and have those items as the most priority, highest priority in the top of the backlog and the least priority at the bottom of the backlog. And then we'll now use those and just basically pull it to our sprint backlog, and it makes it easier for us to plan in sprint planning. So that's how I've answered that in my interview question when it comes to ways how I've supported my product owner in prioritizing the backlog and things I've done. And remember, throughout my scenarios that I've been given for how I've supported the product owner, I kept using the STAR technique, right? I will give a situation, like my situation was the team was like, they were having issue with spending too many long hours in sprint planning, and I saw that I got my Scrum event invite and I see that there was no backlog refinement session, and I know that that's something that's going to be very valuable for the team. And then I connected with the POs to get more information about what's going on in the background. So that's the background of the issue. And then the PO was explaining to me like, oh yeah, I actually wanted to do it. I just didn't have time. I had other things I'm doing. I've been the PO and the Scrum Master, and now, of course, now that you're here, I would love for us to add that. And then the third thing is the action, like the action I took as a Scrum Master. And that's very, very important in an interview. Like when you go, you are giving your scenario. Always do not mix the action you did, the action you took. That's like the most thing that a lot of employer will want to hear. Okay, what did you do? So you say you've been having all these issues, but how did you solve it? What action did you take? So that's very, very important. And then I said that what I did was now get buy-in first from the PO, right? I first got the buy-in from the PO and asked the PO if it's okay for me to have the workshop on backlog prioritization. And the PO agreed, and then I brought it to the team, right? And I brought it to the team to first do some kind of training before then I want to ask the team to do it so they can see the why, right? They can see why should they do this? Why is it so important to them? Because if the team members can understand why and why is it so important to them, they will definitely participate, and they also will not skip the meeting. They'll also try to see and know that this is some kind of value towards them, and it can save them a lot of time. And also at the end was the result. And how did I get the result? And sometimes I'll hear people give scenario and they'll always forget to add the result. The result is very, very important because that will show the action you took, what was the result of the action you took at the end of that. And then the result for my case was the feedback I got from the developers, from the team during our retrospective. They gave me feedback saying, oh my God, thank God, it was nice. At least now we don't have to spend 4 hours in planning. We're now spending 1 hour, 30 minutes, which is nice. And now we really now have time to estimate and truly do or use our Agile Book I and estimate and all of that. Because now we see that we have the bandwidth now for all of that, and the team member was more happier. So if you continue to use all these techniques and you try to give your scenario, hopefully between 3 minutes or less, you definitely continue to do good in your interview. All right, so the next question I'm going to answer, which is very common, like sometimes when you go to interview. But before I even answer this question, if you did not subscribe to my channel yet or like my video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video if it's so valuable to you and you know your colleague that's also struggling in interviews, you can also share it to them. And if you are interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to contact me or email me at admin@aishascrumtech.com, and also you can call me at 484-767-1979. All right, so the next question I'm going to answer is, tell me your relationship with the product owner, right? Like basically this is like a broad question too. And I know I'm purposely asking like a lot of broad question because sometimes when it goes to product owner questions, there's no one specific way of answering it. It's always going to be some kind of scenario you will explain your relationship with the product owner, because we all know it's very, very important for us to have that relationship with the product owner, because if we do, then we can definitely work so well with the team. So ways how I've answered this question about my relationship with the product owner, I'll be like, oh, actually, this is a very, very good question. By the way, I'm going to start by saying that I have a very, very good relationship with my product owner. And of course, I know sometimes we do like have some kind of like, we agree to disagree respectfully. Sometimes we do that. But what I've always do is to basically have that relationship with with my product owner. And how I've done this is like whenever I join a company, I like to have a reoccurring meeting with my product owner. Basically, outside of all of our other meetings we have with our Scrum events, I like to have at least 30 minutes reoccurring once a week sync with my product owner. I think this is very important because then we both can basically discuss together what's going on with the team, how can we better help the team, and what can she do in her own end, and what can I do in my own hand to ensure that we are basically doing everything we want that can help our team get to this high performing, right? And my product owner is actually very nice, and will connect and we'll discuss everything. And if there's any issue that's arising between the engineers, or even between me and anyone, or her and anyone, or even with leadership or anything, we have to like discuss. We use that session to discuss all of that. And also what I've also do for my product owner that's actually very important to us is we do like accountability sheets, right? So this accountability sheet that we do is basically we use this sheet whereby we'll go over all the responsibility for her role as a product owner and my role as a Scrum Master. We basically have that conversation on or who can facilitate daily Scrum, or who can step in. The developers who of course will take on those charge, but I have to ensure that it happens as a Scrum Master, and I have to ensure at all time I have to be there. And if I cannot be there to support the team, and the product owner too can support me, and we all can both can cover for each other. Like who can facilitate backlog refinements, like we discuss as a team. The product owner agree like, okay Aisha, since I'm the one writing the stories and I'm the one like talking to the stakeholder, I think it makes sense for me to facilitate backlog refinements. And of course, if I'm not there, you can always fill in for me and facilitate for me. I was like, sure. And when it comes to sprint planning, who will facilitate sprint planning? And I will say, okay, I will facilitate when it comes to estimating, helping the developers to ensure that they are basically able to do the estimation session. And if you want to facilitate going over the stories, going over the description, acceptance criteria, and all of us discussing like what the business are asking, what was the feedback from the sprint review, all those things. Of course, you can cover that and discuss all of that. So we go back and forth and discuss all of this list of things that we all have to ensure. Like when it comes to metrics, who'll go over metrics is me. When it comes to like sprint review, where we have to collaborate and come up with how we're going to be presenting this to the stakeholders. We collaborate. We're like, okay, that's everyone's responsibility in the team. So we go back and forth with this accountability sheet, and then I will have mine and you'll have one, and we both will agree on the list, and we can continue to have the discussion until we come to an agreement. And at the end, we both will have each copy. So if anything changed, we can always go back and readjust. And every 3 months, I would like to readjust with my PO. We discuss with my PO so we can readjust the list as we see fit. So this, I found that it was very, very beneficial for me and my PO. And we having this it helped us for us not to step on each other's toe, at the same time while we both like maintaining that respect and together supporting our team. So that's how I've answered this question in an interview. And if you remember, I give basically the whole scenario how I've worked with my PO and what I've done differently that have helped me ensure that I have this good relationship with my PO. So the next question I'm going to answer is, how have you helped coach your PO in better technique of writing user story? I know this is sometimes very important, and sometimes they might ask you like, oh, is it just the product owner that writes user story? Sometimes if you go to an interview and you're asked that question, is that maybe they already have a product owner in there is complaining about writing all of these stories, or they already have like sometimes they're asking this product owner to even write technical stories, or while collaborating with the engineers, and they still be asking them to type and or do all of those things. But it's very important to say that when you ask this question, to say from your own experience. I know like from my experience, I've been part of a team whereby we are told, all of us, we are required to write user story. And even me, the Scrum Master, sometimes some things can come up and I'm going to have to be the one to write it. But if you've been in an experience where that's not been the case, then you can also stick by your own story. So I'm going to say about my own story, about when it comes to writing user story and how I've coached my product owner in writing user story. And ways I've answered this in the interview question is basically to say, oh yeah, definitely, I've continued to collaborate with my product owner and to ensure that we have the right user story as together as a team. Actually, like when my team were going through, our company was going through transformation, and my product owner basically switched role because she went from being a product project coordinator, she now became the product owner. And she was saying that, oh, was too much for her. She had to like learn this user story way, a template of writing user story. This is just too much, and it's like so confusing and all of that. And I connected with my product owner and asked my product owner, how do you feel about me doing like a one-to-one session with you, or we can even create like a whole workshop or user story, and I will try to be simple as possible, and we can even like have multiple sessions about better user story writing or better techniques in writing user story. And my product owner was very open to it. It was like, oh sure, oh my god, Aisha, yes, I think this will be so beneficial for me. I truly will love this, because right now I don't basically right now it's been so difficult for me to adjust to this new role, and I will need you definitely to help support me with this technique. And I was like, sure. And I connected, and then we did a 6 week session, right? And first thing I first went over with my PO was the hierarchy of user story, because I feel like that's very important for us to understand the difference between the them, the difference between the epic and future, and also the difference between story, tags, and subtags. So I went over all of that and I explained it to the PO, and the PO understood, and we give a rough estimate about all. Yeah, after that, and now like educated the PO about the template of the user story. As a user, I would like to do this. And one thing that was so difficult for my PO was for her to get the persona of the end user. Because she was like, Aisha, I won't lie to you, I've always worked in the waterfall background, and this is just very new to me, very different. And now having me to write a story coming from the end user, that's like little challenging for me. I was like, sure, definitely, it won't happen overnight. My goal is to continue to support you and guide you. Hopefully at the end we'll get to a place where you will now feel more comfortable. I said, and I don't mind like writing some of this for you, where we can connect, and if you have the list of epics you have, I can go over this and further break it down with you together. Is that gonna be okay? And she was like, yeah, sure. So that's how I connected with my PO. After basically 3 weeks, she came up to speed. She was even surprised, like, oh my god, I can't even believe now I can actually write stories and all of that. And of course, and I educated her about ensuring that the stories should have the whole what and why and the acceptance criteria, and also that we should use the invest criteria to ensure that if you are not familiar about user story, or if you all are not comfortable with user story, I have a whole what is a user story video on my YouTube. Check out on that YouTube video about what is a user story. I broke down by simple steps on what is a user story and things a user story should have. I think if you're missing something, or you want to even more detail on how you can help answer this question, that what is a user story video can 100% help you. And thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you all for watching my videos. And if you've been finding my content valuable, please like and subscribe to my channel. I truly appreciate you all. And if you are interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to email me at admin@aishascrumtech.com, and also you can call me at 484-767-1979. Thank you all, and I hope to see you all in my next interview Q&A question. By the grace